The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
And good morning, and thanks for joining us for 17 News at Sunrise. I'm Alex Fisher alongside Chris Burton.
We begin this morning with current sober reality. Police say one person is dead after a suspected DUI crash in East Bakersfield. Officials were called to the area of Morning Drive and College Avenue just after 9 p.m. last night. Police say a driver was traveling south on Morning Drive when they lost control, swerving off the road and flipping over multiple times. When first responders arrived, they say they found the man pinned under the car and seriously hurt. He ended up dying. BPD says 3 other women were in the car, all rushed to the hospital with what appears to be non-life-threatening injuries. Another man was treated at the scene with what officers are calling superficial injuries. The driver was reportedly not hurt in the crash. Police say speeding and alcohol do appear to have factored into this wreck.
New this morning, and frightening moments for people enjoying a movie at a local theater last night after reports of a fight and someone pulling out a gun. This all happened just before 9:30 on Studio Movie Grill on Rosedale Highway in Callaway Drive. Police say 2 people, identified as Eduardo and Ramona Reyes, assaulted several employees at the theater during an argument over their bill. Officers say Eduardo pulled out a gun and hit an employee with the weapon. BPD says the 2 drove off, later being caught by police near Truxton Avenue and Bahamas Drive. Police say Eduardo was arrested for assault with a deadly weapon and other charges. Meantime, Ramona was arrested for driving under the influence as well as being involved in the assault.
Meantime, police this morning are investigating after a shooting in East Bakersfield. Officers were called to Monterey Street near Tulare Street just after 1 p.m. yesterday afternoon. When they arrived, they found a man suffering from gunshot wounds. No information is available about a suspect, the severity of the victim's wounds, or what led up to the shooting. The investigation is currently ongoing. If you know anything about this shooting, you are encouraged to call Bakersfield Police at 327-7111.
Intense flames consumed a building in East Bakersfield last night, putting up a fight for fire crews. This is a building near Baker and East 21st Streets. The blaze broke out around 10:15 last night. When emergency crews arrived, they found this building engulfed in flames with plumes of smoke flying into the air. No word yet on how the fire started or if anyone was hurt. We'll update you with this story as soon as we learn more.
Well, it was a weekend packed with several thrilling football games. I know I was stuck to my couch for most of it. If you're a 49ers fan, like me, you're celebrating this morning because the team advanced to the NFC divisional round by holding off the Dallas Cowboys yesterday. San Francisco was dominant in the first half, although the Cowboys tried to get a final play on that as the game expired, but they ran out of time. In the end, the Niners ended up beating Dallas 23-17. They'll face the Packers in the divisional round.
Guys were excited. Still trying to figure out where I'm at. It was pretty emotional out there. Lots of opportunities. I thought we had to win the game. I felt like we did on a number of times, but those guys just kept fighting. We had a couple mistakes there at the end that shouldn't have let it get there. But just the guys that come out and finish that game, especially in that environment, was a hell of a win by the guys.
Well, meantime, if you're a Raiders fan, it was an upsetting weekend. Las Vegas facing the Cincinnati Bengals in an NFL wildcard game. After closing out the regular season with 4 straight nail-biting wins, excitement was brewing for Bakersfield's Derek Carr and the Raiders. But they fell short, losing to the Bengals 19-26.
Honestly, I'm just trying to hold back emotion because I didn't plan on that happening. I didn't expect it to have to go that way. I just felt so confident in the game plan. And so it's just hard right now.
Meantime, the Bengals won their first playoff game since 1991 and do it in front of the largest crowd in Paul Brown Stadium history. Yeah,
and you watched it right here on TV 17 last night, a Sunday night showdown in Kansas City. It was the Chiefs against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers taking an early lead in the game, but that Chiefs offense is just so potent. It would come alive, bury the Steelers. Kansas City dominates this one in quarterback Ben Roethlisberger's final game. Final score, 42-21.
Now, we're still several weeks out, but excitement for the Super Bowl is starting to grow in Los Angeles. Super Bowl 56 will be held at SoFi Stadium in LA, a stadium built with the Super Bowl in mind. An NFL team has been on the ground in the area for the past year, getting things set up for the biggest sporting event in the country. Los Angelinos are excited to show off their city, even making the halftime show an ode to the City of Angels. Organizers say they'll be focused on health and safety, but they're hoping it becomes the beginning of the end of pandemic-era events in LA. And just a reminder, there's only one place you can watch the Super Bowl game, and that is right here on TV 17. Super Bowl 56 is Sunday, February 13th. But boy, this past weekend, if this is a taste of what is to come on Super Bowl Sunday, we're in for a treat.
We are in for a treat. These playoffs are ramping up to be very, very fun. You know, we have a lot of powerhouse teams coming in. The Bucks, the 49ers showing a little bit yesterday.
But the Dallas 49ers game, the end of that game, I think a lot of people will be talking about for years to come.
It was simply one of the weirdest games I've ever seen.
It was. Well, we were talking about that earlier. It was just strange.
It was just strange.
It was, yeah. But I know a lot of people, a lot of fans on both teams will not be forgetting that game.
Absolutely.
This morning, schools and businesses continue to deal with the surge in coronavirus cases as thousands in Kern County are currently isolating at home, sick with the virus. Since the beginning of the year, at least 13,000 people have been infected with COVID-19 here in Kern. That number is most likely significantly higher due to a delay in results being processed. Meantime, our hospitals are busy treating people with more severe symptoms. 244 people in the hospital with the virus. 42 more are fighting for their lives in the ICU. There is some good news, however. Nearly half of all people in Kern County are fully vaccinated, a milestone indeed, although far below the state and national average. Kern Public Health will be hosting free COVID-19 vaccination and testing today from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. at their facility on Mount Vernon Avenue in East Bakersfield. Rapid antigen and PCR testing will also be available, and you can just show up. No appointments are necessary.
Well, we showed you those numbers there, but it's not just COVID-positive patients that are creating a dire situation for our healthcare system. Swaths of hospital workers are getting sick too, and that situation led California officials to recommend asymptomatic COVID-positive healthcare employees continue to work, guidance that local hospitals are wrestling with. Across Kern County, a picture healthcare officials had hoped we'd move past. Hospitals overfilled.
We're certainly very busy. The hospital has been impacted, as all of our local hospitals have. We're at capacity.
But in the midst of a surge fueled by the Omicron variant, it's not just COVID-positive patients taxing the healthcare system. Hospital workers are also falling sick in significant numbers.
We've had over 100 employees who have been out this week on any given day.
With fewer workers handling more shifts, Adventist Health's Ghassan Jamaluddin urges caution and attention to detail.
Exhausting our critical care capacity is dangerous. You know, I would say right now, because of the staffing strained and tired, yes, we have to be more vigilant.
To replace staff out sick, hospitals are using familiar methods, traveling nurses and state strike teams. But the situation is so dire, the California Department of Health has turned to more drastic measures, issuing a guideline last week that COVID-positive but asymptomatic healthcare workers may return to work immediately. It's guidance that hospitals in Kern are wrestling with.
Would I allow them to work? And in a crisis situation, the answer is yes, but you take precautions.
As a state healthcare organization, Kern Medical is obligated to follow guidelines from the state. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Glenn Goldis admits the plan still has question marks, but says Kern Medical would stick to it if need be.
Well, I think the evidence is a little thin in terms of guaranteeing anyone's safety. But in general terms, if you're able to make sure that you're following the guideline while taking the proper precautions, it should be okay.
The state's guidance currently remains in effect until February 1st. The current Omicron surge is affecting life across the country. Today begins a week of deep dives on the fallout we're seeing here at home. Tomorrow on Sunrise, I'll take a look at the weight the virus is placing on Kern County schools and how you can keep your kids safe.
Making news around the state this morning, and students in San Diego covered up graffiti with some uplifting messages. After learning about Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy, students at Central Elementary School in City Heights decided they wanted to do something to honor him. So they made posters and hung them up on the graffiti plastered white fence across from the school. The posters displayed inspirational quotes and art. I love that. I love seeing that on a day like today, communities across the nation go out and do something beneficial for their neighborhoods. Love to see that and hope that people here in Kern County do the same.
Put some positivity and love out in the world. Yeah.
Absolutely. 5:37 is our time now, and as the nation pauses to honor the legacy of Dr. King, Democrats are vowing to keep pushing their voter rights legislation forward, despite dashed hopes of it passing.
This as President Biden faces scrutiny over his stalled agenda. Bree Jackson has more from Washington.
President Biden heading into his first year in office this week with a mix of successes and setbacks.
There's a lot of talk about disappointments and things we haven't gotten done. We're going to get a lot of them done, I might add.
Accomplishments include a $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill and historic investments in infrastructure. But there's no clear path forward on priorities like voting rights legislation. A few members of the president's party opposed changing Senate rules in order to get the job done. Top Democrats are pressing ahead anyway.
We are going to keep pressing. We are not going to give in on this because I'm convinced that the people of goodwill are going to step up and help us get this done.
Republicans argue in some cases the country is worse off under this administration, pointing to record high inflation.
Gasoline prices are what, 50% higher than they were when he took office. The border is a mess. COVID was resurgent.
The administration doubling down on its focus on COVID testing.
We have 1 billion tests that will become available to people that they can order through the website.
A federal government website goes live this Wednesday where families can order up to 4 free COVID tests per household. But the fate of voting rights hangs in the balance. President Biden is expected to face tough questions from reporters on issues like voting rights when he holds his first news conference of this year on Wednesday. In Washington, I'm Bree Jackson, NBC News.
Authorities continue investigating this weekend's standoff at a Texas synagogue. In a statement issued late last night, the FBI called the ordeal a, quote, terrorism-related matter in which the Jewish community was targeted. It also said the Joint Terrorism Task Force is handling the investigation. The rabbi of Congregation Beth Israel was among 4 people taken hostage by an armed British national on Saturday. He credits past security training with everyone getting out safely.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.